let's talk about something that's, well, it's just really, really hard. Rebuilding trust after it's been shattered. It's this incredibly painful, personal journey. But figuring out the path forward, that's everything. So let's dive in. So let's just get right to the heart of it. How do you actually do it? How do you rebuild trust once it's completely gone? When that connection you thought was rock solid just crumbles, what are the first steps? Honestly, in that moment, the question itself feels almost impossible to answer. I think this just captures that feeling perfectly, doesn't it? It really is like a sudden fog just rolls in, and the person you thought you knew suddenly feels like a complete stranger. That deep, disorienting confusion, that's the first thing you feel. It's overwhelming. So let's actually spend a moment inside that fog. Because understanding this initial shock, this gut punch, is the only way we can start to find our way out. This is where everything feels raw, and the path forward is, well, it's pretty much invisible. And this is what's happening inside your head, right? Your mind just goes into overdrive. You're hit with total disbelief. You start replaying every conversation, every moment, looking for clues you missed. You start asking yourself, did I ever really know them at all? Because what they did feels so out of character that it just rattles your entire reality. Okay, but if you want to move forward, you can't stay lost in that fog forever. So how do we even begin to find a way out? Well, it doesn't start with an action. It actually starts with a mindset. It's about adopting what's called a conciliatory mindset. And this, right here, is the foundation for absolutely everything that comes next. Let's be really clear about what this word means. Conciliatory. It's all about trying to bring the temperature down, to reduce the anger and hostility. Now, this does not mean you forget what happened. It doesn't mean you excuse it. It just means you're making a choice to approach the situation with a goal of understanding, instead of just making the conflict worse. And that's exactly why this is so critical. It's the very first tool you pull out of the toolbox. Before you can even think about fixing anything, you have to decide if you even want to. This conciliatory mindset is what gives you the clarity to look at the damage and honestly decide if that bridge is worth rebuilding. So let's say you've decided the relationship is worth fighting for. Now what? Well, you don't just snap your fingers and fix a broken bridge. No way. You have to rebuild it slowly and carefully, plank by plank. This is where we get into the practical, hands-on part of the work. Here's kind of the blueprint. First, you need some space. You have to process your own thoughts without them trying to influence you. Second, and this is huge, you have to take it slow. If you rush back in, you're just setting yourself up to get hurt all over again. Step 3 is about boundaries. This is your chance to get crystal clear on what each other's limits are. And finally, you have to keep checking in. Is the effort mutual? Is this really worth all this hard work? And here's the glimmer of hope in all of this pain. Going through a trial like this, it can force you to communicate and understand each other on a level that maybe you never had before. So this whole process, it's not just about repair. It's actually an opportunity for some serious growth. Now, all these steps, all this work, it won't mean a thing if the conversations are just explosive shouting matches. And that brings us to something so simple yet so powerful: the way we actually speak to each other. Just take a second and let that sink in. A calm voice can move mountains faster than a loud hammer ever could. What a perfect image for this situation, right? The mountain is that broken trust, and the loud hammer, that's just anger, blame, and accusations. And here's what that really looks like. A calm voice that brings peace. It brings patience. It brings a chance for understanding. A loud hammer just brings aggression, force, and more conflict. When you're trying to put together something as fragile as trust, which one of those tools do you think is actually going to work? And let's be super clear about this. Choosing to be gentle, choosing to be calm, that is not weakness. It's the total opposite. It's a sign of wisdom. It shows you have a quiet confidence in where you stand, and that you're actually interested in a resolution, not just in winning a fight. So we've walked through that initial fog, we've talked about getting into the right mindset, and we have the tools for the process and the conversation. And all of that leads us right here to the big decision about what comes next. At the end of the day, this is what it's all about. The real goal isn't just to patch things up and get back to how they were. Because, let's be honest, how they were is what led to this break in the first place. The real goal is to use this crisis to build a stronger foundation, one that's based on a much deeper, more honest understanding of each other. And that leaves us with this one last, pretty powerful question to think about. After all the hard work, reinforcing the weak spots, understanding why it broke in the first place. Is it possible that a bridge, once it's been rebuilt, can actually be stronger than the original ever was? Something to think about.